The gleaming spires of Zeta 9's capital pierced the perpetually violet sky, a testament to the technological prowess of the warrior women who called this world home. Commander Azura strode through the halls of the High Council chamber, her metallic boots echoing against the polished obsidian floors. Her lithe form, encased in form-fitting battle armor, exuded an aura of lethal grace. As she entered the circular chamber, the 7 members of the High Council turned their piercing gazes upon her. Azura suppressed a shiver. Even for a hardened warrior like herself, the combined scrutiny of Zeta 9's most powerful women was unnerving. "Commander Azura," intoned High Counselor Vex, her voice as cold and sharp as a blade. "You have been summoned to receive a mission of utmost importance to our empire." Azura inclined her head respectfully. "I am honored to serve, High Counselor. What is the nature of this mission?" A holographic display flickered to life in the center of the chamber, revealing a small blue and green planet. Earth. "Our long-range scans have identified this backwater world as ripe for conquest," Vex continued. "Your task is to lead a reconnaissance mission, gather intelligence on their defenses, assess their technological capabilities, and identify key strategic targets for our invasion force." Azura's heart quickened with excitement. This was the opportunity she had been waiting for. A chance to prove herself worthy of joining the ranks of Zeta 9's most elite warriors. "I will not fail you, High Council," she declared, straightening to her full height. "When do we depart?" "Immediately," Vex replied. "Your ship and crew await in Hangar Bay 7. Remember, Commander, the future of our empire rests on the success of this mission. Do not disappoint us." The threat in those final words was clear. Failure was not an option. As Azura marched towards the hangar, her mind raced with plans and contingencies. She had studied what little information they had on Earth, but much remained unknown about this primitive world. No matter. She would succeed, as she always had. The sleek reconnaissance vessel gleamed under the harsh hangar lights, its angular form bristling with concealed weapons and sensor arrays. A small crew of 5 other warriors awaited her arrival, snapping to attention as Azura approached. "At ease," she commanded. "Status report?" Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Cora, stepped forward. "All systems are green, Commander. We await only your order to launch." Azura nodded curtly. "Excellent. Board the ship and prepare for immediate departure. I want to be underway within the hour." As her crew filed into the vessel, Azura paused for a moment, gazing out at the sprawling cityscape beyond the hangar's force field. This mission would take her farther from home than she had ever been before, but she pushed aside any trace of sentiment. She was a warrior of Zeta 9, and nothing would stand in the way of her duty. The journey to Earth took several days, even with their advanced faster-than-light drive. Azura spent the time drilling her crew relentlessly, ensuring they were prepared for any eventuality. They ran countless simulations of first contact scenarios, though Azura doubted the primitive Earthlings would pose much of a challenge. As they entered Earth's solar system, Azura gathered her crew for a final briefing. "Remember," she said, her voice hard, "we are here to gather intelligence, not to engage. Our stealth systems should keep us hidden from their primitive sensors, but take no unnecessary risks. If we are detected, we abort the mission immediately. Is that clear?" A chorus of affirmatives echoed through the bridge. Satisfied, Azura turned her attention to the view screen as the blue orb of Earth grew larger. "Curious," mused their science officer, Lana. "Their atmospheric composition is remarkably similar to Zeta 9. We should be able to breathe without assistance." Azura frowned. "Noted, but we'll maintain full environmental protocols until we can confirm there are no harmful pathogens or contaminants. Begin your scans of the planet's surface. I want to identify a suitable location for our initial survey." For hours, they orbited the planet, gathering data and observing the movements of the indigenous population. Azura found herself grudgingly impressed by the diversity of Earth's ecosystems and the sprawling cities that dotted its surface. Perhaps these humans were not quite as primitive as she had initially believed. Their peaceful reconnaissance came to an abrupt end when alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. "Report!" Azura barked, springing to her feet. Cora's fingers flew over her console. "We've suffered a massive power surge in our primary systems. Propulsion is offline, and we're caught in the planet's gravitational pull." Azura's mind raced. How could this have happened? Their technology was far superior to anything the humans possessed. Unless, could this be the result of some kind of defensive system we failed to detect? She demanded. Lana shook her head. Negative, Commander. All readings indicate this is an internal malfunction, possibly a result of our prolonged exposure to the planet's unusual magnetic field. Azura swore under her breath. They were falling fast and their options were limited. Reroute all remaining power to the emergency thrusters and inertial dampeners, she ordered. We need to control our descent as much as possible. Aim for a sparsely populated area to minimize the risk of detection. The next few minutes were a blur of frantic activity as the crew fought to keep their ship from burning up in Earth's atmosphere. Azura gripped her command chair, forcing herself to project an aura of calm even as their situation grew increasingly dire. With a bone-jarring impact, the ship plowed into the Earth, carving a deep furrow across what appeared to be an empty field. As the dust settled, Azura took stock of their situation. The ship was a wreck, but miraculously, her crew had survived relatively unscathed. Damage report, she called out, wincing as she extracted herself from her safety harness. Cora limped over, a nasty gash on her forehead. It's bad, Commander. The hull is breached in multiple locations, and our power core is completely fried. We're not getting off this rock without help. Azura's jaw clenched. This was a disaster. Not only had they failed in their mission, but now they were stranded on an alien world with no way to contact home. What about our emergency beacon? She asked, grasping at straws. Lana shook her head. The crash damaged it beyond repair. We're on our own, Commander. Azura took a deep breath, forcing down her rising panic. She was a warrior of Zeta 9, trained to handle any situation. She would not falter now. All right, she said, her voice steady. Our primary objective now is to repair the ship and get off this planet before we're discovered. Gather any functional equipment and supplies. We'll need to scout the area and assess our options. As her crew set about their tasks, Azura stepped out of the wreckage to survey their surroundings. They had crashed in what appeared to be an agricultural area. Endless fields of some kind of grain stretched to the horizon, broken only by the occasional cluster of trees or distant farmhouse. The air was thick with unfamiliar scents, and Azura found herself grateful for the enviro-suite built into her armor. Who knew what kind of pathogens or allergens might be present in this alien atmosphere? A distant rumbling caught her attention, and she turned to see a cloud of dust approaching along a narrow dirt road. As it drew closer, she made out the form of some kind of primitive ground vehicle. We've got company, she called out to her crew. Defensive positions now. They scrambled to conceal themselves as best they could among the wreckage of their ship. Azura's hand hovered near her sidearm, ready to defend herself if necessary. The vehicle, some kind of wheeled transport, came to a stop a short distance away. A lone figure emerged, and Azura's eyes widened in surprise. It was a male, tall and broad-shouldered, with a shock of unkempt dark hair. "Hello," the human called out, his voice deep and resonant. "Anyone hurt? I saw the crash from my farm and came to help." Azura exchanged glances with Cora. This was an unexpected complication. Their mission parameters strictly forbade direct contact with the indigenous population. But given their current predicament, they might not have a choice. Making a split-second decision, Azura stepped out from her hiding place, her weapon trained on the human. "Stay where you are," she commanded, her universal translator converting her words to the local language. "Make no sudden moves." The human's eyes widened in shock as he took in her alien appearance. To his credit, he didn't run or cower. Instead, he slowly raised his hands in a placating gesture. "Whoa there," he said, his voice remarkably calm given the circumstances. "I'm not here to cause any trouble. Name's Jack Cooper. I just want to help if I can." Azura's eyes narrowed as she assessed this Jack. He appeared unarmed, and his primitive vehicle showed no signs of any advanced technology. Perhaps they could use this to their advantage. "You have repair skills?" she demanded. Jack nodded cautiously. "I'm a mechanic by trade. Been fixing up cars and farm equipment since I was a kid. Your ship looks pretty banged up. I might be able to help if you'll let me." Azura considered her options. They needed repairs, and this human's knowledge of local technology might prove useful. But trusting an alien, especially a male, went against everything she had been taught. Commander, Cora hissed from behind her, we can't involve the natives. It's a violation of protocol. Azura's jaw clenched. Protocol be damned. They needed to get off this planet, and this human might be their only chance. Very well, Jack Cooper, she said, lowering her weapon slightly. You may approach, but know that if you make any hostile moves, we will not hesitate to defend ourselves. Jack nodded, moving forward slowly with his hand still raised. Understood. I promise I'm just here to help. Though I gotta say, this is one hell of a first contact situation. As he drew closer, Azura found herself studying him more intently. There was something intriguing about this human male. His body was well-muscled, likely from physical labor, and his face bore the weathered look of one who spent much time outdoors. But it was his eyes that caught her attention, a deep, rich brown that seemed to radiate warmth and curiosity. She shook her head, banishing such foolish thoughts. This was no time for distractions. Your assistance is appreciated, she said stiffly. I am Commander Azura of Zeta 9. Our ship has suffered severe damage, and we require repairs to return home. Jack let out a low whistle as he surveyed the wreckage. This is way beyond anything I've worked on before, but I'll do my best. Might need to call in some help, though. I've got a friend who's an electronics whiz. Between the two of us, we might be able to cobble something together. Azura's hand tightened on her weapon. Absolutely not. No one else can know of our presence here. Jack held up his hands again. Okay. Just us then. But I've got to warn you, it's going to take some time, and we can't leave this wreck out in the open. Someone's bound to notice eventually. Azura frowned. He had a point. They needed a more secure location to effect repairs. You have a suggestion? She asked, her tone making it clear she expected a useful answer. Jack nodded. My farm's not far from here. Got a big old barn that should be able to hide your ship, if we can figure out how to move it. It's isolated, so we shouldn't have to worry about nosy neighbors. Azura considered the proposal. It was risky, but they had few other options. She turned to her crew who had emerged from hiding during the conversation. Lana, can we get the anti-grav systems operational enough to move the ship? The science officer nodded hesitantly. Possibly, Commander, but it will take all of our remaining power reserves. Once we move, we'll be completely dependent on local resources for repairs. Azura's jaw clenched. The thought of relying on primitive human technology galled her, but there was no other choice. Very well, she said, turning back to Jack. We accept your offer of assistance. But know this, human. If you betray us or attempt to alert your authorities, the consequences will be severe. To her surprise, Jack actually grinned. Wouldn't dream of it, Commander. To be honest, this is the most exciting thing that's ever happened to me. I promise, your secret's safe. As her crew set about preparing the ship for transport, Azura found herself watching Jack more closely. There was something about his easy manner and quick smile that she found both irritating and oddly compelling. She had always been taught that males were inferior beings, useful only for reproduction and menial labor. But this human challenged those preconceptions. She pushed the unsettling thoughts aside. They had a mission to complete, and she would not allow herself to be distracted by some primitive alien male, no matter how intriguing he might be. Little did Azura know that her encounter with Jack Cooper was about to change everything she thought she knew about herself, her people, and the true meaning of strength. The old barn creaked and groaned as Jack Cooper worked tirelessly on the alien spacecraft. Sweat beaded on his brow, streaking the grease and grime that covered his face. Azura watched him from a distance, her piercing gaze never wavering. She marveled at his determination, his refusal to give up even when faced with technology far beyond his comprehension. You're staring again, Commander, Cora murmured, materializing beside her. Azura bristled. I'm observing the human's progress, nothing more. Cora's knowing smirk suggested she wasn't convinced. Of course, and I suppose his physical attributes have nothing to do with your observation? Enough, Azura snapped. Focus on your assigned tasks. We need to gather as much intelligence on Earth's defenses as possible while we're stranded here. As Cora departed, Azura's gaze drifted back to Jack. She couldn't deny there was something captivating about him. His resilience, his quick mind, his... No. She shook her head, banishing such thoughts. He was just a primitive alien, nothing more. Jack wiped his brow and looked up, catching Azura's eye. He flashed that infuriating grin of his. Making any progress over there, Commander? Or are you just enjoying the view? Azura felt heat rise to her cheeks, grateful that her alien physiology wouldn't betray her embarrassment. I was merely assessing your progress, human. Your primitive techniques are intriguing. Jack chuckled. Primitive, huh? Well, this primitive just figured out how to bypass your fried power coupling. Give me another day, and I might have your life support systems back online. Despite herself, Azura felt a flicker of admiration. Impressive, she admitted grudgingly. Perhaps there's more to you than meets the eye, Jack Cooper. His grin widened. Oh, I'm full of surprises, Commander. Stick around, and you might discover a few more. The suggestive undertone in his voice sent an unexpected shiver down Azura's spine. She turned away abruptly, unsettled by her own reaction. As the days passed, Azura found herself spending more time in Jack's company. Under the guise of supervising his work, she peppered him with questions about Earth culture, technology, and society. His answers often left her perplexed and intrigued in equal measure. You mean to tell me, she said one evening, as they shared a meal of local cuisine, that your world has no unified government? That you're divided into hundreds of separate nations? Jack nodded, taking a bite of his burger. Yep. Makes things complicated sometimes, but it also means we've got a lot of different perspectives, different ways of solving problems. Azura frowned. But how do you maintain order? On Zeta 9, our High Council ensures that all citizens work towards the common good of our species. We muddle through, Jack said with a shrug. It's messy sometimes, but I like to think it makes us more adaptable. Plus, freedom's kind of our thing. The idea of one group telling everyone else how to live, it doesn't sit well with most of us. Azura mulled this over. The concept of individual freedom was alien to her, yet she couldn't deny its appeal. She thought of the rigid hierarchy on Zeta 9, the constant pressure to conform and obey. For the first time, she wondered if there might be another way. As Jack continued to work on the ship, Azura's crew began to venture out into the surrounding area, disguised as humans thanks to holographic technology. They returned with tales of a world far more complex and vibrant than they had imagined. Lana, their science officer, became fascinated by Earth's biodiversity. Commander, you wouldn't believe the variety of life forms on this planet, and their efforts to preserve endangered species. It's remarkable. Even Cora, usually so disdainful of lesser races, found herself impressed. Their martial arts techniques are not without merit, she admitted grudgingly after observing a local dojo. There's a grace and efficiency to their movements that I hadn't expected. Azura listened to their reports with growing unease. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. Earth was meant to be a primitive world ripe for conquest, not a place of wonder and discovery. She tried to focus on their mission, on gathering intelligence for the coming invasion, but found her resolve wavering. One night, unable to sleep, Azura wandered out to the barn. She found Jack still working, his face illuminated by the glow of alien technology. Do you ever rest, human? She asked, her tone softer than she intended. Jack looked up, his tired eyes crinkling at the corners as he smiled. Not when there's work to be done. Besides, I'm having too much fun figuring out how all this stuff works. Azura moved closer, studying his face. Why are you helping us, Jack? You owe us nothing. In fact, by all rights, you should view us as a threat to your world. Jack set down his tools and turned to face her fully. Maybe I'm just an optimist. I figure if aliens smart enough to cross the galaxy decided to talk instead of shooting, that's a good sign. Besides, he added with a wink, I've always wanted to meet a beautiful space warrior. Azura felt that now familiar heat rise to her cheeks. You find me attractive? The concept was foreign to her. On Zeta 9, physical beauty was considered irrelevant compared to strength and skill in battle. Jack's expression softened. Azura, you're the most fascinating woman, hell, the most fascinating person I've ever met. You're brilliant, fierce, and, yeah, drop-dead gorgeous. How could I not be attracted to you? Before she could formulate a response, Jack closed the distance between them. His hand cupped her cheek, surprisingly gentle for one so strong. Tell me if I'm out of line here, he murmured. Azura's breath caught in her throat. Every instinct screamed at her to pull away, to reassert her dominance over this male. But something deeper, something she couldn't name, held her in place. Their lips met, and Azura's world exploded. She had never experienced anything like this kiss. Tender, yet passionate, igniting sensations she never knew existed. Her arms wound around Jack's neck of their own accord, pulling him closer. When they finally parted, both breathless, Azura stared at Jack in wonder and confusion. What was that?" she whispered. Jack's thumb traced her lower lip, sending shivers through her body. "That, Commander, was a kiss. And if you'd like, it could be the start of something amazing." Azura knew she should refuse, should push him away and recommit herself to her mission. But as she looked into Jack's warm brown eyes, she found herself nodding. "Show me more," she said softly. What followed was a night of passion and discovery, unlike anything Azura had ever experienced. Jack's touch was alternately gentle and fierce, igniting fires within her she never knew existed. For the first time in her life, she allowed herself to be vulnerable, to relinquish control and simply feel. As they lay tangled together in the aftermath, Azura's mind raced. This changed everything. How could she even contemplate the invasion of Earth now? How could she destroy a world capable of producing someone like Jack? But it wasn't just Jack. Over the next few weeks, as repairs on the ship continued, Azura watched in amazement as her crew formed their own connections with the humans they encountered. Lana spent hours discussing environmental conservation with local scientists. Cora found herself drawn into intense sparring sessions at the dojo, emerging with a newfound respect for Earth's warriors. Even as Azura's feelings for Jack deepened, she felt the weight of her duty pressing down on her. She knew the invasion fleet from Zeta 9 would be arriving soon. She had to make a choice: betray her people or condemn the world she was growing to love. The decision was made for her one evening as she and Jack sat watching the sunset. Her communicator, long thought dead, suddenly crackled to life. "Commander Azura," came the cold voice of High Counselor Vex. "Your long silence had us concerned. Report your status immediately." Azura froze, her blood running cold. Jack squeezed her hand, his expression a mix of concern and determination. "You don't have to do this," he said softly. "Whatever happens, we'll face it together." Azura looked into his eyes, seeing the love and trust there. In that moment, she knew what she had to do. She raised the communicator to her lips. "High Counselor, this is Commander Azura. I regret to inform you that our mission has failed. Earth is not the primitive world we believed it to be. Any attempt at invasion would be met with fierce resistance." There was a long pause before Vex's voice returned, dripping with venom. "You disappoint me, Azura. Your emotions have clearly compromised you. The invasion will proceed as planned. You have 24 hours to submit yourself for disciplinary action, or you will be considered a traitor to Zeta 9. The communication cut off abruptly. Azura turned to Jack, her expression grim. "We don't have much time," she said. "If we're going to save your world, we need to act now." Jack nodded, his jaw set with determination. "Then let's get to work, Commander. Earth's not going down without a fight." As they raced back to the barn to warn the others, Azura felt a curious mix of fear and exhilaration. She was about to betray everything she had ever known, to fight against her own people. But as she looked at Jack, at this world that had shown her the true meaning of strength and love, she knew she was making the right choice. The battle for Earth was about to begin, and Azura was ready to stand on the front lines, not as a conqueror, but as a defender of the planet she now called home. The barn erupted into chaos as Azura relayed the dire news to her crew and Jack. Panic and disbelief warred on their faces as the reality of the situation sank in. "This is madness," Cora exclaimed, her fists clenched. "We can't possibly hope to stand against the might of Zeta 9's invasion fleet." Lana nodded in agreement, her usually calm demeanor shaken. "Our technology far surpasses anything Earth possesses. It would be a massacre." Azura's eyes flashed with determination. "Perhaps in terms of raw firepower, yes. But we have something Zeta 9 doesn't. The element of surprise and knowledge of both sides. We can use that to our advantage." Jack stepped forward, his face set in grim determination. "Azura's right. We may be outgunned, but we're not beaten yet. Earth has faced its share of threats before. We'll find a way. As the group debated strategy, Azura found herself marveling at Jack's quiet strength. In the face of unimaginable danger, he remained steadfast, his mind already working on solutions. It was so different from the rigid military thinking she was accustomed to on Zeta 9. Our first priority has to be warning Earth's governments, Azura declared. They need to know what's coming. Jack ran a hand through his hair, his brow furrowed in thought. That's not going to be easy. If we just show up claiming an alien invasion is on the way, we're more likely to end up in a psych ward than the Pentagon. What about your friend? Lana suggested. The electronics expert you mentioned before. Could he help us access global communication networks? Jack's eyes lit up. Mitch? Yeah, he might be able to rig something up. Guy's a genius with computers, even if he is a bit eccentric. Azura nodded decisively. Make the call. We'll need all the help we can get. As Jack stepped outside to contact his friend, Azura turned to her crew. I won't force any of you to fight against our own people. If you wish to return to Zeta 9 and plead for leniency, I'll understand. A heavy silence fell over the group. Then, to Azura's surprise, it was Cora who spoke first. With all due respect, Commander, that's bullshit, she said, a fierce grin spreading across her face. We're in this together. Besides, I've grown rather fond of this backwater planet. Be ashamed to see it blown to smithereens. One by one, the other crew members voiced their agreement. Azura felt a swell of pride and gratitude. These women had come so far from the cold, duty-bound warriors they'd been when they first crash-landed. Jack returned, his expression a mix of excitement and trepidation. Mitch is in, says he can be here in an hour with enough computer equipment to make NASA jealous. Fair warning, though, he's also bringing his entire collection of tinfoil hats. Says we'll need them to block out the alien mind control rays. Azura raised an eyebrow. Is your friend stable? Jack chuckled. Mitch? Oh, he's certifiable, but he's also the best hacker I've ever met. If anyone can get us a direct line to world leaders, it's him. True to Jack's word, Mitch arrived an hour later in a beat-up van overflowing with computer equipment. The wiry man with wild, unkempt hair took one look at Azura and her crew and let out a whoop of joy. I knew it, he cackled, dancing in place. Aliens are real. Oh man, wait till I tell my online forums about this. Azura stepped forward, her voice stern. Under no circumstances are you to reveal our existence to anyone. The fate of your world depends on our secrecy. Mitch's eyes widened, and he mime-zipped his lips. Right, mum's the word. Now let's see about hacking into some top-secret government channels, shall we? For the next several hours, the barn was a flurry of activity. Mitch's fingers flew over his keyboard, muttering strings of incomprehensible jargon as he worked. Azura and her crew provided what technical assistance they could, while Jack coordinated with local contacts to gather supplies and secure a safe house if needed. Finally, Mitch let out a triumphant yell. We're in! I've got a direct link to emergency broadcast systems worldwide. Whatever message you want to send, it'll go out to every TV, radio, and cell phone on the planet. Azura took a deep breath, feeling the weight of two worlds on her shoulders. This was it, the moment that would determine the fate of Earth and potentially change the course of Zeta 9's history forever. Patch me through, she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil in her heart. As Mitch counted down, Azura felt Jack's hand slip into hers, giving it a reassuring squeeze. She met his eyes, drawing strength from the love and trust she saw there. You've got this, he murmured. Just speak from your heart. The red light on Mitch's jury-rigged camera blinked on, and Azura began to speak. People of Earth, my name is Commander Azura of the planet Zeta 9. I come to you with an urgent warning and a plea for unity in the face of an unprecedented threat. She went on to explain the impending invasion, her voice growing more impassioned with each word. But there is hope, she continued. In my time on your world, I have witnessed the incredible diversity, resilience, and compassion of humanity. These are strengths that my people have forgotten in our quest for military dominance. They are the key to your survival, and perhaps to our redemption. As Azura spoke, her words were broadcast across the globe. In every nation, on every continent, people stopped and listened in awe and fear to the alien warrior pleading for peace. I ask now for your trust and your cooperation. The next 24 hours will determine the fate of both our worlds. Stand together, show my people the true strength of humanity, and we may yet forge a future of mutual understanding and friendship between Earth and Zeta 9. As the transmission ended, a stunned silence fell over the barn. Then Jack's phone began to ring, and ring, and ring. Guys, he said, staring at the screen in disbelief. I think the President of the United States is trying to call me. The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. Government officials from around the world scrambled to verify Azura's claims and coordinate a global response. Military forces were mobilized, scientists were consulted, and emergency protocols were enacted on a scale never before seen in human history. Through it all, Azura and her team worked tirelessly, providing what information they could about Zeta 9's capabilities and potential weaknesses. Jack's farm became an impromptu command center, with a steady stream of high-ranking officials and experts coming to consult with the alien commander, who had chosen to betray her people to save Earth. As the deadline approached, tension mounted. The skies above Earth bristled with hastily assembled defense systems, a patchwork of human ingenuity and alien technology courtesy of Azura's crashed ship. Then, with only minutes to spare, the first ships of the Zeta 9 invasion fleet emerged from hyperspace. Azura stood on a hilltop flanked by Jack and a group of Earth's military leaders. Her heart raced as she saw the familiar sleek shapes of her people's warships. This was the moment of truth. "They're hailing us," one of the human officers reported, his voice tense. Azura squared her shoulders. "Patch them through." The holographic image of High Counselor Vex materialized before them, her face twisted with rage and disgust. "Traitor!" she spat. "You dare to stand with these primitives against your own people?" Azura met her gaze unflinchingly. "I stand for what's right, Counselor. Earth is not the simple conquest you imagined. These people have strength you can't begin to comprehend," Vex sneered. "Pretty words won't save them from our weapons, Azura. Stand aside and perhaps we'll grant you a merciful death." "You misunderstand me," Azura replied, a small smile playing at her lips. "I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to show you what you've forgotten." With a nod to Jack, Azura activated a device they'd prepared. Suddenly, the airwaves were flooded with transmissions from across the globe. Images of Earth's beauty, its diversity, its struggles and triumphs played out before the stunned Zeta 9 fleet. "This is the world you seek to conquer," Azura declared, her voice ringing with passion. "A world of art, of music, of love and compassion. A world where differences are celebrated, where the strong protect the weak, where enemies can become friends." As she spoke, more images flashed by. Azura and her crew, working alongside humans, laughing, learning, falling in love. "We came here as conquerors," she continued, "but we found something far more valuable than any military victory. We found a people who reminded us of who we used to be, before endless war and rigid hierarchy stripped away our humanity." Azura could see the confusion and uncertainty on the faces of the Zeta 9 warriors. Many of them were young, like she had been, raised on tales of glorious conquest. But now, faced with the reality of the world they'd been sent to destroy, doubt began to creep in. "High Counselor," Azura said, her voice softening, "I'm not asking you to surrender. I'm offering you a chance at redemption, a chance to remember what it means to create rather than destroy, to love rather than hate. Earth stands ready to forge an alliance with Zeta 9, to share knowledge and culture. Together we could build something far greater than either of our worlds could achieve alone." For a long moment, silence reigned. Azura held her breath, acutely aware of the weapons trained on them from both sides. One wrong move, one misunderstood word, and everything would be lost. Then, to everyone's shock, a new voice broke through the tension. "I wish to speak with the Earth leaders," came the measured tones of Matriarch Zara, the supreme ruler of Zeta 9. Vex's hologram flickered and vanished, replaced by the austere visage of the matriarch herself. Azura felt a flicker of hope. If anyone could see the wisdom in avoiding this war, it was Zara. What followed was a grueling negotiation that lasted well into the night. Earth's leaders, guided by Azura's counsel, stood firm in their refusal to submit to Zeta 9's rule. But they also extended offers of friendship, of cultural exchange, of shared scientific endeavors that could benefit both worlds. As dawn broke over the farm, casting golden light across the assembled armies of two worlds, an historic agreement was reached. The invasion was called off. In its place, a new era of cooperation between Earth and Zeta 9 would begin. Azura stood hand in hand with Jack as the announcement was made, tears of joy and relief streaming down her face. They had done it. Against all odds, they had forged peace from the brink of war. In the days and weeks that followed, the work of building trust between the two worlds began in earnest. Azura found herself at the center of it all, a bridge between cultures, helping to smooth over misunderstandings and foster connections. And through it all, Jack remained by her side, a constant reminder of the love that had changed everything. One evening, as they sat watching the sunset from their hilltop, Azura turned to Jack with a smile. "You know," she said, "when I first crashed on this planet, I thought it was the worst thing that could have happened to me. Now I realize it was the best." Jack grinned, pulling her close. "Funny how life works out sometimes, isn't it? So, oh mighty alien commander, what's our next adventure?" Azura laughed, a sound of pure joy and freedom. "I don't know," she admitted, "and for the first time in my life, I'm excited by that uncertainty. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." As they sealed that promise with a kiss, Azura marveled at how far she had come. She had arrived on Earth as a conqueror and found a home. She had come seeking to dominate and instead learned to love. And in that love, in the connection between two beings from worlds apart, she had discovered a strength greater than any weapon, any army, any empire could ever hope to match. It was the strength of the human heart, capable of bridging the stars themselves. And with that strength, Azura knew there was no challenge they couldn't overcome, no future too bright to imagine. The adventure, it seemed, was only just beginning.